here and for this invitation. This is my first event with the consortium. I was telling Christy, so this is really wonderful to meet everybody. I mean, when I was tasked with developing a human rights program, I researched a lot of your different programs, so it's really wonderful to be here in this company. And I started at San Diego State completely fresh. So my situation is kind of unique in a way. My husband was offered an endowed chair position. So, you know, it was a really excellent offer, but San Diego State does not do spousal hires. So they were trying to figure out a way to bring us on board. And so the dean at the time had seen that I had done work in human rights. So I launched a human rights initiative, and just being new at San Diego State, I just researched the entire faculty of the university, which was a great way to kind of get to know what the people at San Diego State were working on. And so I sent out a call within my college and another one where there were a lot of people who seemed to be working in human rights related areas, not necessarily explicitly, calling themselves in the human rights studies field, but in related areas like in social work, public health, communication, etc. And so I also reached out to some individuals, and there was like a huge response. It was quite, it's quite, at San Diego State, it's quite easy to get people interested, because I think they do see themselves in human rights work. I don't think that's always the case. I've heard from others I've spoken to, like you might see their work as related to human rights and the critical part of it, but people don't necessarily, identify it as human rights. But at San Diego State, like I was saying, even people in communication, criminal justice, homeland security, they kind of see the relevance. And part of that's probably just the, our location and the being on the US-Mexico border, and the research interests that are, a lot of our faculty do, are connected with some of the things going on, which are clearly, issues of human rights problems. So I thought that was really exciting. This is a great spot for especially students. Community organizations reached out to me once they heard about this human rights program, often to, ask me to help them recruit students for volunteer work. And so there's a lot of rich opportunity there. My field, my background is in Southeast Asia, so I'm not as familiar with the region, but for me, the successes of a program is where the faculty interests are oriented and our strength are strong. So it's been really great. I think after 3 years of an initiative, we became a center. So now, since I think about 1.5 years ago, we've been the Center for Human Rights. We're in a college, specific college. So trying to make, keeping the connections expanding. I had a colleague, one colleague I met at we have 2 campuses for San Diego State, one in San Diego City and one in Imperial Valley. So that program has primarily like professional degrees. So, but there are a lot of them, in criminal justice, psychology, and homeland security are oriented towards, I think, social issues. So my colleague and I applied for an NEH Humanities Connection Grant. And so the grant is oriented towards developing human rights and border studies minor, and hopefully a major, which would be interdisciplinary. So yeah, we have a lot of people interested, and some people have very, very busy agendas, research agendas and so forth. But when the opportunity arises, like every semester, I get really busy. Like one with the applying for the NEH with one colleague, and then our conference coming up. on race in the borderlands, addressing migration and border communities. You know, there are always a lot of people who are interested in these topics. So I feel like for me, I feel fortunate that we have such a robust interest among our faculty. I think the main challenge is resources. So I'm kind of a one-person show. I have a lot of students who reach out to me wanting to volunteer, but we're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to recruit students, you know, to help us with kind of clerical and organizational work, you know. And so, you know, we are trying to launch a research collaborative as the Center for Human Rights, along with the Center for Latin American Studies and Brazilian Studies. So our three centers are trying to establish that. And so we're at the Human Rights Center trying to focus on issues of race and the border, and collaborate with some local organizations on research projects. And of course, they are completely overwhelmed. So I think that's the main issue is the time frame. But as far as, you know, as far as interest and demand, and you know, the student response certificate in human rights, as Bill mentioned, as well as I think the interest in Imperial Valley campus for a program focusing on the border, because they're like 10 minutes from the border. You can see the border from their campus. So, you know, they're very, very interested in those issues, and the community experiences that, like with ICE and the way that the border has affected, you know, the communities on either side of the national boundaries. So I think, yeah, that's my experience is there's a lot of interest, and there's a lot of self-identified human rights work among my colleagues and students as well in their interests. But yeah, I think personnel, if I could have the personnel to support me, there's so many ideas, there's so many things we could do. But I think it's, you know, we're pretty young, so I'm pretty happy with our start. So I'll leave it at that, and hopefully we can have more discussion about these topics and your experiences.
Yeah, thank you, Grace. I know a little bit about the program as well, and I've heard nothing but good things about what Grace has been doing. And you know, and like you said, I mean, our context, our local context really does determine kind of what issues we take on sometimes, right? And so in Arizona, you know, we couldn't help but be involved in the border, and you know, it's the lived experience for our students and for our faculty. So same in San Diego. I'll just turn it over for questions and discussion. I mean, it'd be great to hear